Parshas Terumah. And not only is it Parshas Terumah this week, also Shabbos, Parshas Shekalim. We begin the Arba Parshiyos that we will read between Rosh Chodesh Adar and Shabbos and Parshas HaChodesh. When we get to the Chodesh of Nisan, we're going to have from here till Pesach is like 5 minutes. It goes very quickly. But in addition to everything, this week also, tonight is Rosh Chodesh Adar. And for those of you who like to spend time in shul, you like to spend time by davening, Baruch Hashem, this Shabbos morning should be a geschmack of davening for everybody. We're going to, Mirz Hashem, take out 3 Sifrei Torah. We're going to say Hallel, Yalav Yavai. We're also going to say Ata Yotzarta. There's a lot going on this Shabbos. So, and that's besides saying Yoitris by Shachris and by Musaf. So everybody should come with a lot of patience and just relax, being ready to have a beautiful, beautiful Shabbos. So many layers upon layers of Kedusha, the Parshas HaShavua, Shabbos, Parshas Shekalim, Rosh Chodesh, everything on top of everything. And the way we look at it is that we're very fortunate. You can have a special, there are those who make a special Michael for Shabbos for each thing. So if you're on a diet, it's also not the best Shabbos, but they say you don't gain weight from Shabbos food. You should gain a lot of weight. That's the way we look at it. But the Medrash in Shemois Rabbah, Lamed Gimel, talks to us about what building the Mishkan means to Hashem. We know a little bit, we talk a lot about what the Mishkan means to us, what it means to make a bias, to make a place. We've spoken over the years a lot about it, but now the Nesivos Shalom brings a medrash that talks a little bit about what the Mishkan is to Hashem. The familiar pasuk, we all know, pasuk in Mishlei, Perek Daled, it says, Ki lekach toiv nosati lochem. Hashem's talking about, we're talking about the Torah. Hashem gave us some good, He gave us some a real good thing, some very, very chashavas chayra. Torah-si al ta'azoivu. Don't abandon, don't leave the Torah. Hashem saying, I gave you something exceptionally good. And the Medrash says on this pasuk that Kaviyachol, what Hashem is saying is that I sold the Torah to Klal Yisrael. Because Baruch Hu had the Torah was in Shemayim. Hashem is saying, I sold the Torah to Klal Yisrael at Matan Torah, and along with the Torah, Hashem is saying, I sold myself. That I come, Hashem is saying, I come along with the Torah. As the pasuk says in our parsha, the pasuk says, V'yikchu li terumah. The words V'yikchu li by terumah and the lashon of taking that we see by Ki lekach toiv nosati lochem. The lashon of V'yikchu li means V'yikchu oisi. You're taking me. When you take the Mishkan, when V'yikchu li terumah, when you're taking HaKadosh Baruch Hu along with that. And the Medrash continues, and the Medrash brings a mashal, very, very interesting mashal, and I think it's a very, very beautiful lesson. The Medrash says that there was a king who had an only daughter. One child he had, one daughter. And now the king was marrying off this daughter to a prince of a royal family abroad, from a royal family that comes from a different province, a different country, and his one daughter is getting married. And of course, when the prince married this king's daughter, so he wanted to take the daughter back to his country. So now this king's only daughter is leaving. So the king tells the prince, and he says to the prince that's marrying his daughter, he said, listen, this girl is my only daughter. it's so hard for me to part from her, to part from my only child, to part from my only daughter. Yet, he tells the prince, I know that I also cannot ask you, it's not fair of me to ask you or to tell you not to take her back to your country, because it's your home. She's your wife. You married her, and you have every right to take her back, to leave this country and go back to where you came from. But the king asks the prince one favor. And he asks him, and he says that wherever you go, and wherever you move to, wherever you take your new wife, and wherever your palace is, and wherever your place is going to be, wherever you go and you move as a couple, I'm asking you to build a small room for me over there. And that will always let me know that you're thinking of me and that I remain a part of your life, whether I come to visit often or whenever it is. But if I know that you have a room for me and you have a place for me over there, it'll make it a lot easier for me knowing that you're thinking of me and I'm not a forgotten person. So too, the Medrash says, Hashem tells Klal Yisrael, when he gave them the Torah, Hashem says, I gave you the Torah. I have such a hard time parting from the Torah. I'm mamish giving it away to Klal Yisrael. But to tell you not to take the Torah, the whole world was created so the Klal Yisrael should have the Torah, learn the Torah, to live by the Torah. So I can't tell you not to take the Torah. But I'm asking you that wherever you go in your life, wherever you live, just like the mashal of the prince, where he's going to take the daughter and he's going to move somewhere, wherever you go, build a place for me. Hashem had Matan Torah 2 weeks ago in the Parsha, and now we're coming to the Parsha of the Mishkan. Hashem says, I gave you away the Torah, but I'm asking you to build a room for me, build a place for me amongst you, and that is the Asuli Mikdash. Build the Mishkan, build a holy place, build a Mishkan, a room for me. So the Nesivos Shalom tells us that all these mitzvahs that were commanded to Klal Yisrael, such as our Parsha and the building of the Mishkan, they have a shaykhs to each and every individual at all times in the Nesivos Shalom. It's a theme throughout the Nesivos Shalom that the Torah is talking to us. And part of what we said is that Hashem wants to dwell amongst us. Because why? For many reasons. But the big reason we're talking about now is that Hashem wants to dwell amongst us because Hashem cannot part from the Torah. It was hard for HaKadosh Baruch Hu Kaviyachol to give away the Torah to Klal Yisrael, telling us that we cannot have or keep the Torah without Vekas Bashem really doesn't make sense at all. Because we each need, every person needs to create that proverbial place, that room, that Mishkan for Hashem in our individual lives. Hashem saying, you have the Torah, but you need to build a place for me. So in the Torah, that's the Mishkan. But for every one of us that learns the Torah, that wants the Torah, that wants to live by the ideals of the Torah, Hashem is saying to us that you need to make a room, you need to make a place for Hashem under all circumstances and at all times. And the Nesivos Shalom calls this very interesting term, and he speaks about it a few times throughout his Sfarim, and the Nesivos Shalom calls it Chasid L'Davar Echad. We're a person, I don't want to use the word obsessive, but I'm going to use it, where you obsess over every person has something that they're pulled to, that they're cut out to do in Avodas Hashem. And it's through this one thing. You pick one thing, not what your neighbor, not what your brother, not what your sister does, not what your parents do, not necessarily what anyone you know does, but something where you have an inclination to serve Hashem in that way. That's your room for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. For each person, it's a thing that's uniquely yours. For one person, it'll be this type of chesed. For another person, it's this type of midah. For another person, it's this type of learning, this miktsaya and learning, that place in the world where you can serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu, where you carve out your place for Hashem in your lives, and that's your mitzvah of Mishkan. That's you building that room that the prince built for the king. You're building that room that the Medrash says HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants you to build for him. A way to never forget Hashem, and Hashem will see that one thing, when you grab onto that one thing, you make something in life yours at all costs and at all times. That's your thing. You have to make sure you take care of that and you never veer off that path, and you maintain your dveikus b'Hashem through that. And part of the mitzvah of the Asuli Mikdash is to build that place of Hashras Hashchina in your life through your own personal place of connection to Hashem. And you need to remember, it has nothing to do, people are in a habit of looking, well, if I serve Hashem this way, then my friend or my neighbor or my coworker or my cousin or my brother, then he has to also do it that way. Nonsense. What one person does has nothing to do every person's given their own talents, their own strength, and their own weaknesses. And you have to know yourself. And keeping that in mind, by definition, we need to know that the word mikdash, when the Torah says the Asuli Mikdash, and the Nesivos Shalom gives a little suggestion over here, it gives you a little hint as to something that Hashem is really looking for in us. Every person can connect to Hashem a little bit stronger in some way, in some level of Kedusha. Whatever you take on, whether it's Kedusha Shabbos, whether it's Kedushas Einayim, whether it's Kedushas, whatever you want to say, but that, the Asuli Mikdash, putting aside that, is a little hint that you can add. It's possible for every person, through your little room, through your little place, to build a Mikdash, to come closer to Hashem. And the surest way to dveikus Hashem is through Kedusha. A little bit extra added Kedusha. Not to be crazy, not to make everyone else crazy about your Mishagasan or your Kedusha, whatever you take on. It's a personal thing, a quiet thing. You do it by yourself. You build your little room because that's something that Hashem wants to see. Controlling what we do, what we see. So we want to begin building that place. This is the weeks we're going to go now. Terumah, Tzavah, Kisisa, Vayakel, Pekude. The next few weeks are all going to be about the Mishkan, about this building, about having a place. For some people, even if you look around the different kalim of the Mishkan, your avodah could be the light of a menorah, bringing light to someone else's house, a shulchan, helping support someone else, the arayin, more Torah. Parsha Shekalim, that's this week, also tells us the important lesson that every person counts. Everyone gave the same amount. Everyone gave the machzis hashekel. But together we form Klal Yisrael. But each individual person, one person's shekel didn't affect the next person. Every person has their machzis hashekel, their place, their thing that they can create and contribute to Klal Yisrael. That mishkan for Hashem in your own lives. And it's that place that we want Hashem to be proud of. When you invite Hashem to your house, it better be a place where Hashem is going to be comfortable. And that's you. Chassid l'davar echad. A chassid for one thing. To concentrate on that and always keep that in mind. Build that room for Hashem, and Hashem will be proud of every one of us and will have a place to live. I wish you a wonderful, beautiful Shabbos Kodesh, and enjoy the davening Shabbos morning with a geschmack. I can't wait to hear how much everybody enjoyed being in shul this Shabbos.